CampusLore Live, where NFL players are the experts on college football. I'm your host, Drew Butler, joined alongside Aaron Murray. And Aaron, conference championship weekend is over. The college football playoff semifinal matchups are set. And of course, all of this came without controversy. Kidding. Yeah, there's plenty of controversy. We're going to break down the final rankings here in a little bit. But off the top, Aaron, is the college football playoff system broken? Seemingly the same teams get in every single year. And this past week, we see an undefeated group of 5 team, a few of them left way outside of the top 4 with no chance to make it to the semifinal games. Would you like to see a Cincinnati get in or a Coastal Carolina, even if they were a huge underdog against number 1 ranked Alabama?
Going back to your first question, Drew, yes, the system right now is it's broken. I mean, if I'm a group of 5 team, what are you really playing for at the end of the day?
Yeah.
Because everyone wants to play for championships. Everyone wants to make the playoffs, and it just seems like they hit a wall. I mean, they're chugging along. They're winning games. The AAC is a good conference. And all of a sudden, a couple weeks ago, let's go in reverse. And you're like, what's happened? Yes, we've missed a game or two, but so has everyone else in the country right now. We're winning. We've won our championship, but they've plateaued. And like I said, if I'm a group of 5 team, I'm just saying to the committee, listen, just be honest with us. Just tell it to us straight. Can we or can we not make it to the playoffs? And if the answer is no, then we need to figure out something else.
Yeah, after conference championship weekend, it shakes out like this with the usual suspects. Alabama ranked number 1, SEC champion. Clemson, the ACC champion for the 6th straight year, is ranked number 2. Ohio State, who's only played 6 games, they won the Big Ten. Of course, they get in at number 3. And Notre Dame, after losing the conference championship game in the ACC, sneak in at number 4. We're going to break all that down here in a little bit. But you started talking about some of the conferences, Aaron. The Big Ten. Look, they had a shortened season. Ohio State switched the rules so they could get in. Northwestern kept it pretty close there. Friday night, the Pac-12 championship. Oregon, who didn't even qualify for the Pac-12 champion, upsets number 13 ranked USC to win their conference title. ACC and SEC look pretty good. How would you rank the Power 5 conferences after this season?
I think it was a pretty tight race between the SEC and ACC, and I think a couple SEC teams toward the end of the year may have, in my opinion, leapfrogged the ACC as a conference. I mean, obviously Alabama, Florida looked really darn good in that SEC championship game. Georgia just got better and better throughout the season, especially when they made that quarterback change. Texas A&M is a team that I believe deserves to be in the playoffs ahead of Ohio State. I don't think Ohio State deserves. I think, to me, if I had to rank, just going back to the playoff discussion, Alabama, Clemson, Notre Dame, Texas A&M, that would be my final 4. So to me, I think A&M got snubbed, so they should be in it. And then LSU got better and better with Max Johnson, a quarterback there at the end of the season. And then Auburn was a good team this year. So I think overall SEC would get my nod at the number 1 position. ACC was much improved, though, from last season. We're talking about an ACC that we're like, man, this conference stinks. They took a step forward. Obviously, the addition of Notre Dame helped. Miami got a lot better. North Carolina played some great football games. Big 12 would be 3 for me. Oklahoma looked good towards the end of the season. Iowa State, Oklahoma State, Texas. I mean, it's good. Definitely number 3. Big 10 obviously underperformed. Ohio State was good. Ohio State was not great this season. They're in the Final Four because their name's Ohio State, because Justin Fields is starting quarterback. And Justin Fields did not play great against ranked opponents this year. So he, to me, did not live up to his potential along with the Big Ten. I mean, Penn State, Michigan were complete garbage this year. And then Pac-12, I kind of throw Pac-12 and Big Ten to the same thing, 4 and 5 there. Good year, just not enough we've seen from those guys out west.
Here's a little twist for you, okay? For my Power 5 rankings, I'm welcoming the American Athletic Conference into the Power 5. They're my number 3 ranked conference this year. Big 12 at 4, Big 10 at 5. Get the Pac-12 out of my top 5 conferences in 2020. Could not believe how that all shook out. Of course, with Oregon, who wasn't even supposed to be in the conference championship, winning the conference championship game. We're looking forward to the semifinal matchups. We're going to touch on them in just a bit. But Aaron, before we go to break, who's your top team heading into next season? And is there a darling like Coastal Carolina or Cincinnati that we can expect in 2021?
I think a team that's going to take a major leap to kind of challenging to win a national championship next year is Oklahoma. You saw that team get better defensively. You saw their quarterback, Spencer Rattler, get better and better throughout the season. This is a team, young quarterback, gaining some confidence defensively. And then you look at their big team, their big rival in Texas. A lot of questions, obviously, circling their head coach. He's coming back for another year, but still not a lot of great feeling inside that Texas locker room right now. You lose your quarterback in Sam Ellinger, your leader, your guy who's been pretty much everything offensively. So expectations is Oklahoma once again wins the Big 12. I anticipate them to be in the playoffs next year. And if Spencer Rattler continues to improve as a quarterback, they're a top one or two team heading into the country next season.
You mentioned Oklahoma. I wonder if Lincoln Riley will still be around as head coach. We will talk about that after the break, so don't go anywhere. You're watching Campus Lore Live. We are back, Campus Lore Live, breaking down everything that happened on Conference Championship Weekend, getting you ready for the college football playoff. And Aaron, in this unprecedented season, it's not really that long of a wait. I mean, in 2 weeks, it's going to be New Year's Day. We're going to be rocking and rolling with some unbelievable football to find out who makes it to the national championship. Hey, you talked about looking towards next year, Oklahoma possibly being a team that you would circle to say maybe they could be in the national championship picture come 2021. Let's talk about the coaching situation, though, because as these next 2 weeks really fade out and as you look towards the college football playoff, new storylines are going to break. Coaches are going to get fired. Coaches are going to get hired. Who do you think, looking towards next season, is the coach with the most to prove in 2021?
I think the coach with the most to improve is whoever Auburn signs. The fact that you got rid of Gus Malzahn for $21 million in a pandemic season where you're losing a ton of money as it is, a guy that has been good. I mean, I just think expectations at Auburn are way too high. You're not Alabama. I know it's tough being in that state and seeing what Alabama does year in and year out, but I think Gus has done a fine enough job not to lose his gig this season. So very shocked that he's fired. So whoever they do sign, they better ball out because that's a lot of money down the drain right there for Auburn. And if it's Kevin Steele, your defensive coordinator, I will I will say it right now, the worst decision of 2020. I know they're looking at some potential guys that have a chance to be good coaches. Are you good enough to warrant a $21 million plus paying for a whole new coaching staff at the end of the day on top of that as well?
Yeah, who's the splash hire? Is it Steve Sarkisian, Alabama's offensive coordinator? Go get him, bring him across the state, see what he can do in Auburn. I think that would make their fan base happy, but quite frankly, nobody's sure which direction they're going to go. I'll tell you who the coach with the most to prove is. It's Tom Herman at Texas. I mean, Texas openly went after Urban Meyer with 2 weeks left in the season. There were reports that they were offering him $12 to $15 million per year. Urban said no, so Tom Herman does not get fired. He knows that he has to win the Big 12. You got to make a push to the college football playoff in order to keep those boosters, the alumni, and the fan base at Texas happy. I'm going to be watching after Tom Herman to see what the Longhorns do in 2021. In the interim, though, coaches are going to be on the move. You spoke about Auburn. I wonder who else is going to have to make that move across the country. Tell me about this, though, Aaron. What if the NFL comes calling? You're seeing reports this week that Northwestern's head coach Pat Fitzgerald could get some looks from the NFL. And one name that I think really could make and take his time thinking about it is Lincoln Riley at Oklahoma. I think there are some specific situations in the NFL where he really may think about making the jump.
Well, Lincoln Riley, Dabo. I mean, looking right now, it looks like as I believe the Jacksonville Jaguars will have the number one pick in the draft. So if
Yeah.
he's able to go to Jacksonville, select Trevor Lawrence, be united with him, I mean, that's an incredible story right there from national championships to heading there. So yes, these guys are tremendous coaches that the NFL is going to look at. To me, you're making a boatload of money. You're dominating your conference. You're dominating when it comes to recruiting. Why leave something comfy to go to an NFL to a not very good football team with super high expectations? You don't perform for 3 or 4 years, and you got to go find another job back in college football all of a sudden. So I would stay in college. At the end of the day, like I said, these guys are making so much money. They're at the top of the mountain. Why risk it? I think they're enjoying what they do, but at the end of the day, it's a personal decision. We'll see. Can you handle going somewhere and not being successful for 3, 4, 5 seasons?
Dabo's going nowhere, but Trevor Lawrence is leaving. There is plenty of elite talent across the entire nation that won't be back in college football next year. On the flip side of that, though, Aaron, who's your favorite player that's returning next year? Somebody that could really get a lot of Heisman love in 2021.
Trevor Lawrence's replacement, DJ
Okay,
Ulialele. Is that how I pronounce it correct? I
that
got like,
close.
yeah, close enough. I got 6 months to keep working on that to perfect it. But I mean, you're talking about a guy that has played in games this season, had a comeback victory in his first start, comes back, plays Notre Dame on the road, plays really, really well against that talented defense. So he's someone who's gained some confidence this year. He's learned from Trevor Lawrence. He's in a tremendous offense that has great receivers and backs and everything that you could want. An offensive line that got a lot of experience this year. So I'm looking forward to him. You give him the reins, hopefully a spring ball, summer, fall camp with that talent and that coaching staff. I'm telling you what, that kid is going to jump from a guy who's already being talked about to possible Heisman guy come 2021.
I like Zach Wilson, BYU's quarterback. Look at the statistics and what he was able to do this past season. He's really going to make it happen at BYU. See what a group of five or an independent team can do. And how about a guy that could burst onto the scene, Aaron? I'm just going to throw a name at you right now. He's been on the scene. It's been a little bit quiet. JT Daniels at Georgia. I mean, he's gone against three teams, lesser opponents, put a lot of really, really good numbers up on the statistics sheet. You think of anybody else that could really catch your eye moving into next season?
I'm with you on JT Daniels. I mean, and you look at that offense right now, all the receivers are back, running backs are back. They're utilizing the tight end position a little more. They had the 6'7" tight end freshman who made a couple nice catches in the last game. So they's someone that, with a spring ball too. Let's not forget, he transferred in,
Yeah.
no spring, no summer, wasn't the starter come fall camp, was still nursing that ACL. And then come season time, he was a scout team quarterback. So once again, he was not repping his own offense for the majority of this season. So the more time he gets within the offense, the more time he gets with these receivers. I'm looking for a big breakout season for that offense for the University of Georgia next year. And then a lot has to do with how well JT's been playing as of late.
Will that evolving of the offense happen in Athens? You see it happen in Alabama. They're putting up nearly 50 points a game in the SEC. Of course, they just hung 52 on Florida to win the SEC championship this past weekend. Who can slow down the Crimson Tide? I'm not sure anybody can. But after the break, you and I are going to talk about the college football playoff semifinal matchups, let you know if we think the committee got it right, and get you prepared for some awesome action on New Year's Day. Don't go anywhere. You're watching Campus Lore Live. We are back, Campus Lore Live. Drew Butler and Aaron Murray here. And Aaron, it's time to talk about the college football playoffs. That's right, the semifinal matchups are set. The committee came out earlier this week and told us who the four teams are going to be, 1 through 4: Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, and Notre Dame. So in the Rose Bowl, Alabama takes on number 4 Notre Dame. And in the Sugar Bowl, a rematch of last year's Fiesta Bowl semifinal game, number 2 Clemson against number 3 Ohio State. Aaron, before we talk about the games, did the committee get it right? You can make the case for Notre Dame to be a top 4 team. Ohio State played 6 football games. They played consecutive weekends once all season. They just had to take 4 quarters to beat Northwestern in the Big Ten championship game. Aaron, Ohio State is not worthy of a top 4 playoff spot this season.
No, they really aren't. I mean, that's my biggest thing. I mean, Notre Dame, yes, they got their doors blown off versus Clemson this year, but they have some impressive wins. That game versus North Carolina was great. The win versus Clemson, even though Clemson was missing Trevor Lawrence, some defensive guys, that's still a huge win. You look at Ohio State, they beat Indiana and Northwestern. I mean, and yes, Indiana and Northwestern had good seasons, but a lot has to do with the fact that the Big Ten was awful this year. That's why they had good season, because they're playing subpar competition week in and week out. So if you strip the name Ohio State off their jerseys and you just watch the film, if you did your homework, they were not a good football team this year. They were not elite. They were good. I'll say that. They were a good football team this year. They were not elite enough for me to say they deserve a spot in the Final Four at the end of the day. So if I had to re-rank the whole situation and make the campus lore playoff scenario, it would go 1 Alabama, 2 Clemson. I think that's pretty easy. 3 Notre Dame because of their body this work and a very good ACC, which you and I talked about early on in the show. And then 4 would be Texas A&M. And then 5 would be Cincinnati. And then maybe 6, Ohio State. And at the end of the day, if you even want to go eye test, you can't tell me if you put Ohio State and Texas A&M on the same field right now, I think A&M would win that football game. Easy. Their defense against an Ohio State offense that has been very average this season. I think A&M would win that football game. Their running game, their offensive line, Kellen Mond and his improvement this year, along with a very good defense. Give me A&M. They deserve a shot into the playoffs right now.
What does the committee want? The narrative changes year after year after year. Do they want the four best teams? Do you have to win your conference championship? Dabo Sweeney said it best. The battle of attrition over an 11-week season, the emotional toll, the physical toll, just the what happens among a football team and your roster and the coaches, those things matter. And that's why Dabo ranked Ohio State number 11 on his final coaches poll. You know who I would put in there, Aaron? I think at this point, because if we want the top four teams right now, Alabama's one. That's obvious. Clemson is two. I'll keep Notre Dame at three. You get a rubber match in the semifinal game. Let's put Oklahoma in. Oklahoma looks much better than they did earlier in the season. Spencer Rattler's gotten much better. The defense is much improved. They won their conference. Cincinnati, you should be up there as well. And again, I've been a proponent. Keep it at four. Keep it at four. Keep it at four. Seems like the argument now can be made to take it to 8. Well, let's break down these semifinal games. We got to work with what we got. In the Rose Bowl, which has been moved to Arlington, Texas because of COVID protocols in Southern California, you got number 1 Alabama taking on number 4 Notre Dame. Alabama is a 17.5-point favorite, Aaron.
You got to be able to come out fast, score early, and see if you can make it competitive in the first half. But you need explosive plays. Too many times you're watching the film versus Clemson, and guys are completely covered all over the field. I mean, they're going 4 or 5 receivers going out en route. No one's open. Ian Book was kind of stuck in the pocket. Clemson did a great job of keeping their lanes, making him try to win the game from within inside the pocket. So they got to find ways to get creative running the football. They got to get creative finding ways to get guys up and down the field. And they got to score, because I don't care how good you are defensively. No one is going to stop Alabama the rest of the season in the playoffs and the championship. They're going to score 40 plus every single game. They're going to get theirs. They're just too good everywhere. Offensive line's too good. Najee Harris is too good running the football, catching the football in the backfield, matching up against linebackers in the passing game, and then those receivers and tight ends, and then the way Mac is playing right now. This is a created offense. And then they got the best offensive coordinator in all of college football calling plays too, with Steve Sarkisian. So you're not gonna stop them. You gotta be able to score. So I'm interested to see too, what is Notre Dame's game plan for fourth down? If you're around the 50-yard line and it's 4th and 4 or less, are you just going to go for it every single time and just say, we have to?
Yeah, that might have been the toughest decision that the committee had to make. Who could make that game against Alabama competitive? But then again, that's why you play the games, which is why the teams that have played 11 games should be rewarded. Quickly, the Sugar Bowl, a rematch of last year's Fiesta Bowl. Number 2, Clemson, a 6.5-point favorite against number 3, Ohio State. Based on what I saw last weekend, Aaron, I don't see how Ohio State can keep this close. Clemson is on a tear right now. They're healthy. They're experienced. They want a national championship.
Yeah, and Brent Venables, defensive coordinator, going against Ohio State offense, which has not been great this season. You got to give advantage to Clemson. This is a team that, when healthy, they're as close to as good of a team as Alabama. So I think they actually roll in this football game. I do. I think Clemson with Trevor Lawrence, ETN, those receivers, and then one of the best defenses in the country, when healthy, with Brent Venables, with time to game plan against Ohio State, I think they go out there and absolutely dominate.
Yeah, these 2 semifinal games may not be close, but look, I'm okay with that. I am totally fine with number 1 Alabama versus number 2 Clemson, round 5 for a national championship down in Miami. I think that would be awesome. That would be awesome. Don't go anywhere. After the break, we are going to talk about the rest of the bowl games. And hey, is the bowl system broken along with the college football playoff? We'll talk about it right after this. All right, time to put a bow on this episode of Campus Lore Live. Aaron, you and I just got a little heated talking about the college football playoffs, what to expect in the semifinal games among those top 4 teams. Surely we will all enjoy it when it does come around. But until then, we've got bowl season. And most importantly, people are asking, is bowl season broken? You've had 22 teams opt out in this unprecedented COVID season. That's made 17 bowl games get canceled. You got a team like Army who's 9-2 with contract obligations, who's been left out. And then teams like South Carolina and Tennessee, 2-3 wins. They're playing in bowl games. Aaron, is the bowl system broken, or is this year just, hey, we got to get past it. We'll get back to normalities next year?
I would think a little bit of both. I think obviously the fact that all these bowl games have been canceled just only shows you more and more that it is a little bit broken. I mean, this is Army, for goodness sakes. Put them in a
Sure.
bowl game. They have the record. This is a tremendous team, great kids. They deserve to go out and be able to compete into a bowl game. I know no one wants to play a triple option team on such short notice, but at the end of the day, the fact that they have teams right now that, like you said, Drew, that have 3 wins that are over a team that has triple the amount of wins that they do is it's really sad to see that going on right now. So yes, a little bit broken, but things are a little bit more magnified because of everything that's going on right now in the country.
The number one game that I'm most interested in is the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, number 8 Cincinnati against number 9 Georgia. What's the narrative going to be? Obviously, Cincinnati, undefeated AAC champ. They are a group of 5 team that wants to make a mark against a Power 5 stalwart in Georgia. Georgia, though, last year, look, they played in a game very similar to this against Big 12 runner-up Baylor. They took care of business in the Sugar Bowl. I think this is going to be a fantastic game. That's my number one bowl game to watch. What about you?
I'm going to go with the Cure Bowl, Liberty versus Coastal Carolina right now. Two
Oh,
great
nice.
football teams. I mean, Liberty had one close loss this season, lost 15-14. Other than that, they were really fun to watch. Malik Willis, 20 passing touchdowns, 10 rushing touchdowns. Coastal Carolina, obviously, we've seen them all year. That offense is so much fun to watch. That game versus BYU was one of the best football games this season. So, two teams that maybe aren't on your radar because of the fact that they're not a Power 5 team are two of the best group of 5 teams this season going at it there in the Cure Bowl. So, for me, that's the number one game that I want to watch this bowl season.
My next game is the Orange Bowl, number 5 Texas A&M against number 13 North Carolina. That number 5 team in years past has not necessarily been motivated to play in their New Year's Six bowl game if they don't make it to the playoff. This is an awesome SEC versus ACC matchup. Will Texas A&M show up to prove a point? Will they be able to slow down North Carolina's elite offense led by Sam Howell? I think that game is going to have a lot of fireworks. Should be a great conference matchup between the SEC and the ACC. What's your last bowl game that you are looking forward to, Aaron?
The Chick-fil-A Bowl. I mean, you're talking about two of the best teams in the country. You know how much I love Cincinnati and how well they've played over the past few seasons. AAC is a tremendous conference. These guys are not getting enough respect. So I think they come in with a huge chip on their shoulder. UJ's only gotten better and better this season. They're healthy defensively. They got an offense that's balanced. To me, I think this is one of the best games in all the entire bowl season. Two teams that are extremely balanced, both play well defensively, both got some superstars on the offensive side of the football. I'm looking forward to that one here in Atlanta come, a week or two from now.
Aaron, number 1 versus number 2, Clemson in the national championship game. I'm guessing. What's your prediction?
I'm thinking 1 versus 2. These two teams are just too balanced on both sides of the football. I mean, you look at Notre Dame. Offensively, they're good, not elite. Defensively, they're pretty good. Ohio State just has not been elite on either side of the football. Alabama, Clemson, they can win on both sides. They can win offensively, as we know, and they can win games on the defensive side. So to me, they're too good. And I'm with you. I can't wait to watch those two guys duke it out there in the national championship.
Dabo versus Saban, Mac Jones, Najee Harris, Devontae Smith versus Trevor Lawrence, Travis Etienne, and the whole crew. Going to be awesome. Round 5. It will surely put a cap on this unprecedented college football season. Hey, thanks so much for watching us. For Aaron Murray, I'm Drew Butler. We appreciate you tuning in to Campus Lore Live.